Well, for those of you that may be tuning in for the very first time, what we're doing is conducting interviews of volunteers who have supported the employer support to the Guard and Reserve. This organization has been in effect for 50 years, 5 full decades of providing support to our troops and the Guard and Reserve and our employers that support those troops. And this is the 50th anniversary of the employer support in the Guard and Reserve. Today, we have the privilege of talking to 2 volunteers who have provided immense support over multiple decades in support of the employer support of the Guard and Reserve. And we're delighted to introduce you to both Janie and Joe Boscacci, 2 stalwart volunteers who have been with us for many, many years. And we'll get into the details of that. But before we go there, allow me to give you a little bit of understanding what employer support the Guard and Reserve is. This is a Department of Defense program that was established in 1972 to promote the cooperation between our Guard and Reserve troops and their employers. And these civilian employers are there to assist our Guard and Reserve to sustain their membership and also to help work a partnership out so that they're mutually supportive and we can then protect nearly 50% of the individuals in the Department of Defense that are serving in the Guard and Reserve. So you can appreciate that they are absolutely essential to our ability to defend our constitutional liberties, our values, and be available to the states for response to crisis within each of the states. So with that said, I'd like to move right on as we celebrate our 50th anniversary and get you to know a couple of our volunteers, and through that knowledge, maybe give you a deeper appreciation for why this mission is so important to the well-being of our country and our states. So that said, allow me to introduce first Joe Boscacci. And Joe, if you'd be kind enough to share with us, how many years of service have you provided to the employer support the Guard and Reserve?
Jim, thank you for hosting this evening. In 1987, I was at the 6th U.S. Army headquarters at the Presidio of San Francisco, working in the personnel division, and I was notified by my boss, Colonel Lou Rose, that I was to work with the state chairs of ESGR within the Western region in the 6th Army area of operations. So in 1987, 35 years ago, I started to work with ESGR. I, of course, was designated by the state chairman of California, a good friend of mine, Colonel retired U.S. Marine Corps Hank Morris, to be the assistant chair, and that was the time that I started. So 35 years. It was only 15 years old when Joe Boscacci joined. I met some of the nicest people in the world throughout the 6th Army area, and I decided that no matter what, through the rest of my military and retired time, I would be a volunteer. So it's 35 years and still moving ahead.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate that. That's an amazing amount of time. And we'll get a little more into why you did that in a few minutes. But I see that beautiful young lady next to you there, which I know it makes you guys a dynamic married team supporting the volunteers throughout California. And Janie, welcome to our interview. And could you tell us why you joined or when you joined?
Well, officially, I joined a little over 5 years ago, and unofficially, I joined a very long time ago, helping my husband through thick and thin. So it's been a good organization, and it's interesting to see how it evolves every year.
Well, you know, I got to say, without question, having been a 6-year chair for the committee here in California, you have been an extremely important part of our ability to perform the mission. And also, Joe is always the first one to mention just how important you have been to his ability to provide the services he had throughout that entire 35 years. So we get that. We appreciate it greatly. Let me move to the next thing. You know, everybody asks usually, what motivates a person to join ESGR? I mean, obviously, Joe, you were asked, but there had to be more to it before you said yes. Could you tell us a little bit about your motivation?
Sure. Let's just say that once I left that position in 1990 to go to Fort Jackson, South Carolina to make full colonel, I decided that I would get involved with the ESGR and continue for our national defense. The Guard and Reserve is so critical to our national defense, taking care of our soldiers, sailors, Marines, all of the different reserve and Guard components became to me a very important aspect of serving. Even once I retired in 1997 from active duty, I continued to serve to this day. So I feel as an American citizen, grandson of Italian immigrants who came here for a better life and for freedom, I wanted to serve even more. So to me, it's very, very critical that I continue to serve because this is the greatest nation in the world and it's worth serving for.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. Now, I can tell you all that Janie probably joined because she's been such a supporter of her husband over the years. But Janie, could you add anything to why you decided to weigh in, 6 years ago?
To be honest with you, Joe's passion for helping reservists and ESGR was so wonderful about what he wanted to do, what he could do, what he couldn't do. It actually piqued my interest into what I could do on a lesser level, certainly. And it was something that we could do together. Mm-hmm. And also MMS, inputting MMS hours was a perfect niche for me.
Well, I got to tell you, I would never say that you had a lesser role ever, because for those that benefited from your time and support to all of us here in this committee in California, we owe you a great debt of gratitude. We appreciate it, Janie. And we understand that maybe Joe has the highest passion of anybody we've ever seen in the committee. So it all makes sense and certainly contributed to my willingness to remain committed to the organization as well. Well, that was great. And for those of you that are tuning in, let me assure you that the Guard Reserve now is employed as an operational force, changing from a strategic force, meaning that they're utilized all the time around the world. In fact, as we do these interviews with Joe and Janie tonight, we have over 106,000 Guard reservists around the world serving in over 119 countries. And you can appreciate that this is really an important function that they have performed over the many decades, and in Janie's case, last 6 years. Really essential to the well-being of our national defense and the well-being of our governors and their ability to utilize the Guard and Reserve to help out our citizenry within the state. Well, with that said, and looking at that, there's one last question I'd like to pursue with you is, what would you suggest is, if you were to turn to somebody and ask them, would you like to be a volunteer? Do you think you could honestly say that it's a fit for most people?
To be very honest with you, Jim, it's not the most. It's a matter of time control and what you do. I believe that we ask our volunteers, give us what you can. And this is very important. Some people are burned out with their jobs, responsibilities as parents and caretakers for their moms and dads. But it is a critical, very critical thing that time may be money, but patriotism is even better. And I believe that it is time well spent. And that's what I say to people when I recruit them, like you have done such a great job in doing. Give us what you can, and we will work with you. And for those who have never worn the uniform, this is their chance to serve. And believe me, we're getting more people today who want to serve the 99% who have not worn our uniform. Yes.
Oh, that's a great observation, Joe. I appreciate that a lot. The reality is, for those of you sharing this moment with us, please understand that this 50 years of contribution to the Guard and Reserve have resulted in building a strong relationship. Because without the ability of employers to support our Guard and Reserve as they are mobilized around the world or within their respective states, supporting a wide range of missions, whether it's the recent pandemic or border security or drug abatement, you can name the issue that's affecting the well-being of our country, and you'll find the Guard and Reserve on the front line of supporting that. They couldn't make that happen without the dedicated support of their employers. And guess who creates the conditions where employer will support the Guard and Reserve? You got it. It's these volunteers. Janie and Joe have been instrumental in the committee's operation, and they have been instrumental in building those partnerships. And so we are delighted to celebrate their service and their volunteerism, along with the 50 years of support that over 4,000 volunteers nationwide have given over the years in supporting building these relationships. So whether you're an employer or you're a member of the Guard and Reserve, retired, or are currently working with a little extra time, as Joe pointed out, we'd love to have you be a part of our team. Janie, Joe, thank you so much for your contributions tonight. Thank you for all your service. And you're a great example to all of us on how we can make a difference in national defense by donating just a few extra moments of our time and supporting our Guard and Reserve members across the country. Have a great night. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. We're very proud to serve with you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.